meeting of the Design Advisory Committee. Thank you all for attending. This is our first meeting in 3 months, and it's good to see everybody. I think what I'd like to do to start things off is do a roll call. And what we'll do is we'll have everybody put their video on one at a time, say that you're present, and then and I'd also like to do the introductions at that time because we have a new member here today. Okay, I'm going to start things off. My name is Ted. I'm the chair of the committee. I've been with the committee for a little over a year. I guess I'm one of the engineering representatives. I'm a chemical engineer, an accountant, and business owner, and I'm very happy to be on the committee. Next up, I'll go to our vice chair, Jonathan Lampier.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I've been here since the beginning as well. I think I'm a planning representative, but I don't quite remember. I recently just moved to London in the UK, so that's where I am at the moment, studying urban design.
Thank you. Next up, Thomas Griven.
Well, as you can see, it's 3 months since we've done this, so I've forgotten how to. Tom Griven, I am a landscape architect, although I think I'm just on as an average person. I've been on the committee from the beginning as well, and I enjoy it. So I think I bring a little landscape architecture and urban design vision to the committee. Thank you very much.
Tom. Next up, Jessie Hitchcock.
Thanks, Ted. I'm Jessie Hitchcock. I've also been here since the beginning, and I'm the member, I think, responsible for environmental and sustainability lens on our applicants. And I work in the energy sector, mostly on electrification and energy efficiency, and happy to be here.
Thank you, Jessie. Alex, you're next.
Hi, I'm Alex. I've been here since the beginning. Also, I believe I'm just a member at large, but I do have a background in urban planning, and I'm currently working in music and film.
Thanks, Alex. Sarah McDonald.
Hi there. As Ted said, I'm Sarah McDonald. I am quite sure I'm a member at large because I have no other professional background in any of this work, but certainly very interested as a community member. But my background is in post-secondary education and fundraising.
Thank you. Nancy?
Hi, it's Nancy Solomon. My background is electrical engineering. I currently work in engineering firm as a project manager, and I have been with the committee since 2000. I think we started 20 in April 2020, and but we really didn't start until September. Yeah.
Okay. The next person I was going to invite to speak would be Elizabeth Berry. She has sent her regrets. She has a background in planning. Also not able to attend today is Christina Verissimo. She joined the committee only about 6 months ago. She's an architect. This brings us to the new members. We have one of them on here today, Sujana. Would you mind turning your camera on and introducing yourselves to us?
Yeah. Can you see me?
We can.
Okay. I'm Sujana. I'm a landscape architect working at Fathom Studio for over 3 years. And I had my bachelor's degree in architecture and worked in India for 5 years in landscape architecture. And then did my master's in University of Manitoba, and since working with Fathom Studio. And I'm very happy to join the committee and contribute and bring the landscape architecture lens and feedback.
Thank you, Sujanna. We're very happy to have you on the committee. The other member is Nicholas Robbins, who is unable to attend. And I think
he also works with me at Fathom Studio. He's a landscape architect as well.
Thank you for introducing him.
Okay.
I've met Nicholas before. He served on the design review committee with me for a little while.
Okay.
And then if I look around our committee right now, I see 1, 2, 3, at least 4 members who have been on the design review committee in the past. I don't know, Sujanna, if you are currently on that committee or not.
I think I am there as a alternate member in case anyone. Yeah.
Okay, so there we go. Everybody's been introduced. Today is a very light agenda. There are no applications. It's really to discuss some correspondence that's come to us. And then to talk a little bit about the appointment process, and because that's coming to an end and some of us may need to renew. So moving on to item 2, it's for the approval of the minutes from August 11th, 2021. We do have quorum. I'd like to start out if somebody could, somebody has any comments on the minutes. Has everybody read them and are in agreement with them? Right, Jonathan?
It's been a while too. Yeah, just going through it. My name is spelled wrong a number of times. There's an extra H in it, so if that can be corrected.
We'll make a note. I think that's Andrea, that's your job. You're our note taker for this. I'll assume yes.
I will make a note,
Rachel.
Chair, and have it corrected before posting. And sorry about that, Jonathan. I did not notice that when Liam submitted them.
No problem.
I'll say Liam had his work cut out for him. That was an epic meeting. We went very long and we covered 3 applications. I'd like to point out on the present list, it says that Jessie Hitchcock was there, but she actually wasn't in attendance. Jessie's in agreement with that, so we should amend that. Any other comments, Tom?
Yes, let me see, page number 3, the presentation for Maynard Street, the first item. I have my notes on it as well, but I'm not sure if it's clear what that means. That very first comment of the recommendations, that the cornice line wrap around the 3 facades that do not have a setback where the lighter materials exist. Is that comprehensible? Is that what we decided? Can anybody remember? It's a very convoluted sentence. And if
That's
you
exactly what we wrote and what we approved.
But now, in retrospect, 3 months later, looking at it in the cool light of day, should we amend it to say more clearly what we meant?
I'm sorry, Tom, we cannot change something that we've already moved and approved. It's done. So what we're doing now is the exercise and seeing, is it accurate, captured in the minutes?
These minutes are considered draft and will require approval by the Design Advisory Committee at a future meeting. So it's a draft. I think we can.
No, we can't change the motion, Tom. We have to just confirm whether or not we are in agreement that the motion as written in the minutes is exactly what we said. And that's what would have been written down and presented on screen, and that we would have read off and voted on.
Do any of the other members find that a little gobbledygooky? No. Okay. Fair enough.
We'll stick with it.
Otherwise,
Oh, sorry. I did just check my notes and I was present for the August meeting, but I was not present for the July meeting. So we must have got them mixed in your notes, I guess.
Very well. So to Jill, we'll strike that. Jill, Jesse was in attendance.
I will note that. Thanks very much.
Any other thoughts? Hearing none, I'd like to get a motion to, I don't think we need to amend it for the spelling mistakes, because that's like a trivial issue. I'd like to maybe just get a motion to approve the minutes as presented. And a seconder.
It's Nancy. I'll second that.
Can I have a mover first?
Mover. Okay, Nancy.
Okay, I can second it, Nancy.
Moved by Nancy, seconded by Jesse. Any comments? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? No, hearing none. The minutes carried. Approved. Minutes are approved as written. Okay, we're moving on to item number 3. This is for the approval of the order of business and the approval of additions and deletions. Is there any suggestions for changes to the minutes? Sorry, to the agenda? Then can I get a motion to approve the order of business?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jonathan, a second by Sarah.
oops, okay.
I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 4, business arising out of the minutes, there are none. Item 5, call for a declaration of conflicts of interest. I'm not expecting any, and there are none. Item 6, consideration of deferred business. Once again, there is none. And item 7, correspondence, petitions, and delegations. Jill, do we have any correspondence?
There are 2 pieces of correspondence for your discussion tonight, and they both have been forwarded to the members. And there's no petitions from the municipal clerk's office and no presentations.
Very good. Thank you.
Ted, you're muted.
Somebody muted me. It wasn't me. We're going to go first to the correspondence from our member, Tom Griffin, July 29th, 2021. It was a letter to the committee and to city staff. I'll ask Tom to take the floor to discuss.
It's just like Jonathan, Ted, it's Tom Gribbin, not Griffin.
Yeah, I know it's Gribbin. Sorry.
Okay. I did send this note in June. It rose from a real sense of frustration when we, as a committee, reviewed development on Wise Road in Dartmouth, case 23056. There were quite a number of errors on the presentation on the part of the engineering company. I had a number of questions that I thought that presentation elicited. It was necessary to ask these questions because of the presentation. And then it led into a discussion on the role of the planning department as leading us through the work of the Design Advisory Committee. So I sent it to Ted and sent it to Mr. Higgins, who was our major planner at the time. I heard back yesterday or the day before yesterday, Monday, I think, from Erin McIntyre, who I believe was always at our meeting. She's not here today, I notice. So did the committee members get my note and the comments from the senior planner?
Yes.
Is my voice crying in the wilderness, or is there any agreement on any of the points that I made? I don't want to be a voice. This was my opinion. If it is not reflected by the committee, then I suppose, in all fairness, we can move along. If there's agreement, that then we can discuss some of the items. Obviously, it didn't elect any excitement anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm just kind of concerned. Why did you receive a response 4 months later? Am I even counting properly? June, July, August, September, October, 5 months later.
Why? Well, you can't ask me that. You'd have to ask Ms. McIntyre. And in all fairness, I mean, she took over a new job. I'm sure replying to a note from a public committee, it was not the primary item on her desk. But I did get it, and it was, as I say, this Monday, and I immediately sent it out to the committee members. So I have a lot of questions even on her responses, because it's I used the word in my first draft. The planning department is seemingly, to me, acting as an apologist for developers. Ted talked me out of using it because he felt it was too, not strong a word, but sort of a poking in the ribs word, which is really what I wanted. So I changed the word to a proponent. And I'm still not sure that a planner, in our experience, these planners are seeing things that none of us see when we go through the building, when it comes to materials and textures and a definition of form and shape. So, any comment?
Yeah, I can comment. I agree with you, Tom. I think we've been through this several times, in that, like, the city will essentially tell us whether or not we interpreted something correctly, that seems to just be like the process within the constraints of this committee as it's defined. Like, I agree again, with regards to Halifax and the building code. I don't like approving things that I think could be better, but then we're also kind of pigeonholed into this, section 6, only comment on these 4 things. So I agree with everything in your correspondence, but I also know we're kind of at an impasse with regards to the role of the committee. So I think for me, it comes back to the tracker and, like, are our recommendations actually being implemented, whether or not they're in or out of scope of this particular section of the bylaw.
Mm-hmm. But we don't know about the tracker at the moment. The development at the very, very first one that we looked at the corner of Oxford and North Street is now at the first floor of construction. I have no idea if they, and the tracker doesn't tell us, if any of the recommendations, particularly I remember Jonathan's recommendations for more use of the historic stonework that was in the building prior to it being demolished. So I've no idea. No one has come back to us to say, yes, they have taken 5 of our 6 recommendations. We don't know. I know in my neighborhood, the old Moffat's pharmacy is now being demolished, not the pharmacy, but the construction is there on full flight. And we had many recommendations for that building. And I have no idea if any of the recommendations have been included. And the tracker from the last edition of the tracker, there's nothing on that shows, yes, we have, we scored 3 goals, but the other 6 were not attended. We have no idea. So far, a year into our jobs and 13 or 14 reviews, we've no idea if we're just barking into the wind. And I think there's a lot of there are a lot of questions on the role that we play versus the planning department and a development officer. We have to convince the development officer that he's seeing something that we as a group, 10 or 5 or 7 people, are not seeing. And we do that every time we present it. So I'm kind of wondering who these young planners are. And that's why I'm saying that they seem to be working with the developer rather than with this committee. And also very early on in the process, we were asked to make recommendations to the planning department on things that would change. And I think this is the time where we make a recommendation. Like the whole, the next letter we're looking at, Jonathan and Ted's letter on our role and the new package B, like we've become entirely irrelevant now, the package B. It's we will not see any proposals except those few that are looking for a variance. And all we will be doing is approving or disapproving the variance, not the design. So I think it's a watershed moment for our committee. Do we proceed and go along with this kind of rubber stamping, like as a citizens committee, or do we forge a revolution?
Thank you. I'm going to encourage everybody to speak up here. This is a really good opportunity because we're a year into meeting, right? We've done all the package A proposals, and now we're going to start seeing package B proposals with the new rules. And now's a really good, and we're coming to the end of our terms too. It's a really good opportunity. If you have something that you wish to discuss, it's okay to say it. I encourage you to do so. I saw Nancy would like to speak, but Jill had her hand up first. She might have something for us. Go ahead, Jill.
I would just like to advise folks, I'm not sure if they know, but planning is working on doing a comparison as part of the tracker for the recommendations that were put forward by you folks and where those recommendations lie. Honestly, they are hoping to have that for the December meeting. Yes, December meeting for next month. So it's just that they were unable to, it's a significant amount of work to go back through. So they are working on it though, just so you'll have a better idea next month.
Just for the benefit of the committee, could you let us know when we originally requested that work?
Honestly, I went through the minutes and it was not noted in the minutes of that meeting month. It was noted that you would like to have the tracker for purposes of what was coming forward. And that's what you've been receiving each month. It was not noted in the record, the minutes record, to have your recommendations followed. And I'll be honest, I've had trouble tracking down the recording to listen to what was on the recording. At the end of the day, planning has said that they're more than willing. They just needed a bit of time to provide you with the information as far as recommendations and where they are at.
I think we'd all be in agreement that we definitely did ask for a tracker of which of our motions were accepted.
Yeah,
we had a lengthy conversation about that.
Yeah, we had a really long conversation, I remember, but anyway, I was just trying to clarify like how long it's taken because that would be really good to know for our information. But and so what's going on with the recording?
I guess for you, Jill.
Sorry about that. At the time, it was a Teams meeting. It was done through Teams. It wasn't recorded live on Zoom. So I'm just trying to, it was at the time, it was recorded. It's just trying to track it down on various drives to see if we can find it to listen back. But again, at the end of the day, planning certainly has said that they would provide you with the information. They just, like I said, needed a bit of time to go through it.
I'm going to say just for Sujana's benefit, because she might not know anything about this. Sujana, every time we have an application, we've made a recommendation. It's always been to approve, recommend approval. And then we say with consideration to, and then we list 3, 4, 5, or 6 different improvements that we suggest for a design. Now, none of those improvements have to be accepted by the developer, but our committee is very interested. We're very engaged. We're interested in knowing which, if any, of those suggestions have been taken. And that's why we're asking for the tracker. So now you're up to date. I can go to Nancy next.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. And then Jesse.
Okay, I just wanted to share a few points for that email that you sent, Tom. So we are a team from the public that have, that's my understanding of this committee, is that we are a team that have experiences and a background that we should have brought this experience to help bring innovation and best practices, to share them with the designs that we review. And that was my expectation when I joined. And this is why they had specific backgrounds or specific people that can join the committee. They have confined the reviews that we do. Although our backgrounds are different, we are confined to a specific chapter that we should be reviewing, but we were told that we can comment on other items and give recommendations. But as we have discussed multiple times, we do those recommendations. They are almost the same recommendations for all the buildings, but we don't see anywhere, like they don't go anywhere. So I do feel the frustration as well. I have a question regarding, I'll just use an example, that hanging clock that was in one of the buildings that had the safety issue. We understand that those packages have been reviewed for the National Building Code and reviewed for all kinds of other standards, HVAC, electrical, Canadian code, and all of that. Is that reviewed by the planners, or is that reviewed by the design review committee? I was not part of the design review committee before. Is that something that they do review, whether those packages are as per codes and standards, or?
We'll ask, first of all, we don't have a city staffer here from the planning group. And that was something that Jonathan and I agreed to, because there's no applications here. They are the best person to speak with that. And Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I still know the answer. And that is that the citizen committees do not review for codes, right? We're only looking at the design guidelines and the land use bylaw. That's all, only thing that we're supposed to be looking at.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jonathan, please.
No, I was just going to say that's true of all committees from the city. We're all advisory bodies, to my knowledge.
But does Jill know whether there's a committee in the cities that, or a team in the cities that actually reviews that? Okay.
Ted?
Clarification.
I'm pretty sure this is the city's job.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
In the reply from Erin McIntyre, she says that there is no review of the Nova Scotia Building Code at the site plan approval stage. That review takes place as part of the permitting process. Permitting process.
Okay, so it's under the permit committee or the body that gives a permit.
But I think the permitting process is the city engineering department and the city planning department.
Not us. Go
So
ahead, Jesse, and
yeah,
then
no,
Sarah.
It's more.
Sorry, Nancy, you're not done. Go ahead.
am I allowed to talk still, or?
Yeah, I'll let you finish off, and then
Okay.
and then Jesse, and then Sarah.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that because when that application came that had the clock, we all had the same comment about the safety, and the designer at that time, they already had their permit, but they answered that they did not really review that part of the design. So that was something that is a little bit alarming. I know from my job is that the federal government are investing millions and millions of dollars for in sustainability, and as well as provincial government, DTIR and HRM, to have buildings that are green buildings, green construction. But when you look at all the packages that we have reviewed, there is no push at all to get any of those sustainability innovations, or even the simpler things to be added. You can hear Nova Scotia Power pushing for the 2030, Halifax for the 2050, but nothing of that is being applied to the bylaws for the developers. So I find that a little bit alarming as well. So that's that. Those are my comments. Tom already had all of these in his email, but when they were answered in a different direction. I feel they were diluted and not really answered about those directions that the HRM is going, or the city is going to. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Jesse, then Sarah.
Sarah, is your point like on this exact topic? Yeah, you can go ahead then.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that there is one existing committee in HRM that does make decisions that are not in an advisory fashion. It's the Design Review Committee, and essentially it's being dissolved.
Correct. Jesse?
I just wanted to, I guess, like flag or request, or at least put it on the minutes, that the December meeting of this committee will be after we have had to decide if we will reoffer. So having that tracker, or the information from that tracker, I think for me at least, and likely others, would be imperative for us to understand the impact that we've had over the last year plus of our lives and the work that we've done. And I think it would inform our decision to reoffer, as well as other folks looking to join. So I would just, if it's not possible, I will say, I think you've had several months, so it's disappointing, but if it's not possible, it's not possible. But I would really love to see the results, even from like one or two of the early applications that we did, just to get a sense of if we're having any impact at all. So just putting that on the record.
I can definitely follow up tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Friday, with planning to see what their capacity is to, at least track one of the applications that were before you that's actually under construction. And again, as far as on a go forward, so what is our actual record that we would work off, like what the record is for years to come, would be the minutes, and the minutes that were posted, that were approved by the committee, had about the tracker sheet, but it did not have the recommendations being followed. I'll be honest, I was one of my first committee meetings. I was kind of there as to witness it. So I kind of forget what the conversation was, but again, the actual recorded minutes that were approved had about the tracker, but not the recommendations. Again, I will definitely follow up and see what I can get for you.
Thank you. Are there further comments? Sarah, go ahead.
So we're still just talking about what Tom had sent in, right?
Yep. What Tom sent in, and then I guess Erin's response, and knowing that she's not here, she'll be at the next meeting, and she may be able to explain more.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I have a level of empathy or sympathy, or whichever one it is, for starting a new job, especially in a pandemic. I totally, literally understand that. But I think 5 months. So the previous executive director was left in June. So when Tom sent the correspondence, so one would assume that, that would be forwarded on to an interim person relatively immediately. So I'm just kind of at a loss, like, especially, even not that we should be given any sort of special consideration, but the fact that he's part of a committee around design review or design advisory. I think I just realized it during this meeting that you didn't receive a response for 5 months. Like I'm just kind of blown away by that. So I'm not really sure how to express that, or like clearly there was some sort of systemic failure in our system if you didn't get a response until probably what I can only assume is someone realized that we were going to go ahead with this meeting, and so better get a response before the meeting. So I'm a little frustrated by the combination of lack of response to our needs as a committee or committee members from staff in general. And to be clear, it's not the clerk, like it's not clerk's office staff. I guess it would be planning staff.
I agree with you, Sarah, but that's the way that's what's happened. How do we move on though? Because your meeting, your letter, Jonathan and Ted, is equally as pertinent and relates to the future of us, not as a committee, but as individuals who have a concern and a hope and a love for the city. And it seems to be in many ways that we are a very finely tuned rubber stamp. That tracker, so far it hasn't been tracking. We are led by the planning department, and then with your letter, Jonathan and Ted, what do we do with our new mandate under the package B, where all we will be looking at will be at variances that many of the designs that we looked at that did not have a variance, that we felt were not a great contribution to the urban fabric of the city, will just be automatically approved without any public input or any committee input. So maybe we should move on, Ted and Jonathan, to the next letter and combine our concerns with because it's one package of concern. Mine were maybe more detailed, that come out of frustration of the Wise Road presentation, but I think we should include the bigger picture of your letter in light of the package B, our new mandate under package B. And just for the fun of it, when I got the information from Ted, I phoned the city, what would it be, Ted, the treasurer or city's clerk's department, and asked for a copy of the new package B. And she said, "Are you sure you want a copy?" And I said, "Well, okay." So if any of you have the time to sit and read this, and you can rest assured that no city councillors have sat and read through that. And if you went to the number of public meetings that I went to for the development of this, I had no idea that this is what was going to produce. And so they say that the public commitment, the public involvement is now done. It is in that package, but as a constant attendee at those meetings, I have no connection with this. But it's a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of reading, and it's very, very dense. It's what one would call obfuscation. But anyway, so can we go on to your letter, Ted and Jonathan?
I think that's a good idea. And I give credit to Jonathan for writing the bulk of it. But it came out of discussions that we had, which was also discussions with the other DAC members about some concerns regarding what was going to happen to our mandate, going from package A to package B. And I'd like to hand the floor over to Jonathan to sort of sum up our letter.
Yeah, so it basically arose out of that somewhat brief presentation we had from staff on package B after we had requested to have it because we weren't going to have it, which is part of what the letter was about, the fact that we were we're this odd man out committee, and that we don't feel that our mandate is doing what it should be doing, and will do even less under the new package B. Now, I'm saying I've not looked at what was finally approved, and my understanding is we will be getting a fresh presentation on that in the December meeting, but I don't know what that means. But yeah, the letter, just looking at the fact that we can't comment on most things, and the things that we are commenting on is way too far down the process in design to really have any meaning. So for us to be effective in the way that we really want to be effective, is we have to be there much earlier, when pencil hits paper, to help these people give comment on proper design, instead of doing it when they already have construction drawings and are ready for permitting. It's too late, and we've all shared that frustration.
I can add a little bit to that. This letter was sent, I think August 16th, immediately before a council meeting, as correspondence, and Sam Austin used this, and he put forward a motion to adjust package B. I don't know the exact motion, but it was sort of along the lines of requesting that city staff take into consideration this correspondence and try to adjust the design review process, because that's what this is. This is just the design review process as part of package B as a whole, and find a way to get earlier input, which is really the bulk of what Jonathan's letter was. And it actually worked. It was approved by council to do some more work. And then city staff came up with this on September 14th, a couple weeks later. I printed this out. It was a supplementary report on how to adjust package B. And they made some recommendations, and they said, I'll sum up here, HRM charter prevents there from being design review prior to, not enable the land use bylaw to require design review before permit applications are submitted. And that's the problem here. If we wanted to be involved earlier, which is really what everybody on this committee thinks would be the most effective way of providing input, they have to change the HMRM charter. I don't know how complicated that is, but it seemed to be, from this report, something that they weren't eager to do. And they suggested an alternative, which was to have a committee of staff members work with the developer earlier on. But this would not be a public committee. Members of us would be members of the staff. I think generally there was a little bit more to it, and generally this was seen as something that was good. And then at the end of October, when they approved package B, it's really complicated, too complicated for me to say exactly what is and is not included in the new package B, and hence we're going to have somebody explain it to us what the actual changes are at our next meeting. But it looks like there's some changes made to it, but probably not something that is going to be really satisfactory to the members of this committee in terms of being involved earlier on to really impact the design. And as it stands right now, I think, as Tom said, the DAC involvement going forward in package B is really just to look at variances on projects, not to be involved in all the criteria that we're currently involved in. And so that's where we're at right now. We don't know exactly how it's going to be affected, how package B is going to come down and affect our committee. We will find out soon, but it has suffice to say it's probably going to be fairly close to what we do now. So open up to comments.
But Ted, it's not close to what we're doing now. Now we review all. We don't review, we advise on all proposals in front of the city. Under the new legislation, land use bylaw, it would be only those that are seeking variances from the land use bylaw. As Jonathan, or you say, we are only responsible to the development officer, and any under centre plan, we have concerns that the new developments coming forward will be subject to zero public input. All decisions will be made behind closed doors between the developer, staff, and the development officer. And I'm suggesting that we ask as a committee and articulate these concerns, and ask that we become a design review with some sort of ability to insist that changes are made rather than a recommendation, that we don't know what happens to it. Is that putting our heads in the guillotine? I'm not quite sure if it is or not, but you know, and you talk about reaffirming for another year. I'm willing to give it another year to see if there are changes. But if we are continuing to do this kind of rubber stamping, this kind of, well, it's nice to gather once a month and have a chat about buildings, I don't really want to be formally associated with these approval of buildings that in 10 years' time we'll all be saying, God, that's an ugly building, or that whole area there is ugly because of we approved it. And that's where it is at the moment. We approve it with recommended changes, which don't happen. Anyway,
we don't approve anything. We recommend approval.
We recommend approval. Yeah, yes.
To a lot of the members of the public, they would look at it as us approving. Sarah, I think you had something.
No, I'm good for now. Sorry.
Right. Jesse does.
I guess just another like process thought. I mean, I don't know what the likelihood of the city giving us decision-making power on this committee is. I think what Sarah said earlier about what's happening to DRC doesn't bode well for that. But I guess I just have an overall kind of question or thought about, I'm even looking at what Erin wrote back to Tom. And she mentions that, you know, we're allowed to seek clarity on the development officer's ruling, but we're not allowed to, like, it doesn't seem to me that they will change it. And that certainly hasn't happened over the course of all of the applications we've reviewed. Like, there's never been one instance where the development officer said, oh, you know what, like, I think you're right, and I'm going to adjust this. So I guess, like, is that ruled out? Like, at the point of DAC meeting, is there any avenue for it to go backwards if the development officer was like, oh, you're totally right, like, this doesn't meet? Because how it feels now is that they've decided it meets, that's immovable, and we can only seek clarity and then make some nice recommendations, which isn't very useful, and likely will be even less useful if we're doing that on fewer applications. So.
Thank you. Encourage everybody to speak up if you have further comments on this.
How do we move ahead?
Yeah.
Or do we just leave it to next 8th of December and see what the presentation on the package B has to say and its relationship to the role of our committee? Or do we revise Ted and Jonathan's letter and make it stronger? I agree with you, Jesse. I don't expect the city to give a bunch of, you know, a tinker, a tailor, a soldier, a candlestick maker the right to approve or not approve buildings. But I would like to see something a little thicker and richer than just these nice recommendations that we know go in one ear and out the other. So I'm wondering what is the feeling of the committee? Do we rewrite that letter and make it a little more insistent, or do we leave it for a month and see the presentation package? And if we can live within what we are presented with as the role of this committee in the future.
Jonathan?
Yeah, my mind just went completely blank. Go ahead, Sarah, give me a sec.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna sound nuts, but I feel like we're missing a third avenue here. So we could wait until next month. We could write another stern letter, or we could take this to a more public discourse. Like, how many people are listening to this meeting right now? Like, probably not very many. But I'm sure that lots of people have an interest in the fact that we're representing the public and different people with different interests on these buildings, and they're not. I mean, unfortunately we can only assume that this is falling on deaf ears because we don't even know, because staff has not provided us with that information. So I think that in and of itself is something that we could probably discuss with the public or with the press. Maybe I'll get kicked off this committee for it. I don't know. Maybe my reapplication won't get approved. But so there are other avenues to have this discussion. Usually if you want the public to understand what's going on and our representation on it, you know, you don't send another angry letter, because it's going to just be read in the same vein as the first one. So so I don't know if there are other options for us if we really want to. I mean, and then there's a fourth option. We all just quit. And that looks really interesting too. If an entire committee doesn't reoffer, what the heck's going on there? So I don't know. At this point, if staff aren't willing to be cooperative in a timely manner, my thought is maybe we have other courses of action as well available to us. Might be stuff that people aren't really interested in doing, and that's okay too, but I just thought it would be worth saying, because usually we're told to speak to the public only if we let the staff know, and only through the chair, and yada yada yada. So sorry, Jill.
Go ahead, Jill, and then Jonathan.
So again, I certainly hear your frustration. I'm not, I can't speak for Erin McIntyre at all. I would just reaffirm that staff would really like to come next month and discuss package B and how it relates to your committee. And again, I'm certainly willing to reach out to planning on Friday to see what their capacity is as far as supplying you with recommendations on past applications. And again, I do hear your frustration, and certainly I will, I can speak to planning and see if we can fast track some information for you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think I'm not totally opposed to what Sarah's talking about, but I think obviously we give them till December and hear what it has to say. But to me, it ultimately comes down to, like, what is our role? And if our role is to just provide recommendations on these couple of small variances here and there, what's the point? Because they're just recommendations, and are we here to look pretty? Like, I don't get it. Because no one seems to really be listening.
Good point.
So is the consensus to? I think Sarah, it needs someone though to be. I think if Ted can't do it because he'd be excommunicated by the city. But it needs us as a group to kind of come up with almost a press release, and someone that would, go and stand in front of one of these great holes in the north end of the city and say, this is what we're dealing with. You're right. You're right. Another letter will just go off into the breeze somewhere, and we'll get a polite response in 6 months' time. So I would suggest at the moment in this meeting that we leave it for the month, see the presentation, and if there is agreement with the committee after the presentation on our role in package B, then some of us get together, rewrite Ted and Jonathan's letter as a public, not expose, but a public discussion that the public can understand on the role of a design advisory committee and what has happened to it and why we are why we are all threatening to resign ensemble. So that's, to help move the meeting along, this meeting, that's what I would recommend at the moment. We give it the month, think about that public write-up that we would come up with, and we can keep that in our back pocket. Is that awkward for you, Ted? I'm not really sure. Is it awkward for you?
No.
In the context of a chairman, no?
No.
No.
I'm here to serve the committee.
Yeah, but I also think
I want to make sure you guys all get to speak your minds. I encourage that.
I also think I remember when we were looking at the building at the corner of Gottingen and Cogswell, and you stepped down, and boy, did you give that developer some, I thought it was marvelous. I thought, oh, Ted, hey. And it was very true, and I've talked about that and that building to all my friends since about the importance of that corner. But do we know what's happened? No. I mean, it's just, there it goes. I think the very, very bright ideas of the 10 people in our committee, and it's a lot of it is hot air that goes wisping off with the smoke. Anyway.
I'd like to make sure Alex and Sujana, especially you're new to this committee. Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I guess I would broadly agree with the letters that you and John and Tom wrote. I was more or less satisfied with the response from Aaron McIntyre, and as my own opinion is that I can see where everyone on the committee is coming from. I personally am not, I don't really have an appetite for taking a more activist role or insisting on more, legally binding authority and whatnot. I don't really want to stand in the way of everyone else going in that direction, because it seems like everyone else does want to go that way, but I personally am not really interested in that myself. But it's just
That's fine. Thank you for speaking your mind. Good.
I agree with Tom's concerns regarding the city or the developer letting us know whether or not they're taking the advice we are giving through this committee regarding the design process or design recommendations. And also, I agree the changes regarding package B as well. I think they need to be some sort of a review committee that is involved in the application process. It's a shame that they no longer need any approval process to go through package B. And another interesting thing that happened in the center plan changes recently is that for landscape, they require a high-level detailed drawings to be produced to come out into through the planning process, including like planting plans and lighting designs. I don't understand why that level of detail is required for site plan at such an early stage. Like some of these can be changed quite drastically once throughout the design development process, and having to spend so much time at such an early stage to prepare all these drawings, that are essentially redundant at the next process throughout the design development is I don't know, it's not required at any stage, at such an early stage.
Thank you. Anything else? I think we've talked this one out pretty good. I'm really glad that we met today. And so we could have this chat today. I'd say if there was a takeaway from this, there's that we're really eager to see which ones of our recommendations have been taken, if any, see what the fruit of our labor is, and that there's a general frustration that our mandate is so limited. All right. I won't expand beyond that, but I've noticed that since the first meeting, and it's been a consistent theme since then. And it's been captured in the letters from Tom and from Jonathan and I, so some people are aware of it. Okay, I think we're going to wait until the next meeting. Eagerly look forward to what they're going to tell us about package B. Tom?
No, Ted, I was just nodding in agreement. Yeah.
I saw the hand up. You often have. Okay, I'd like to say thanks everybody for actually speaking. Sarah, go ahead.
Oh, there's like a weird background noise there. I just wanted to clarify something a little bit. I mean, I think there's certainly a time and a place for emotions and like feeling frustrated about the process, like we're all humans, but it's also a little bit beyond that. Like, I think it's more around the democratic process and how we're responsible for representing the communities here in HRM. So it's frustration in that, oh, it feels bad that I'm spending this time doing this. Yeah, no, for sure. But it's also the actual impact or lack of impact that this is happening. So I'm almost frustrated for like everybody, not just the folks on the committee. So I just wanted to be clear on that it's not, you know, just the personal committee's experience. It's that we're sharing this information because of the work that we want to do in the city.
I just said that. Thank you, Sarah. Jesse?
Totally agree with Sarah, and just like raising one thing that one line from Erin's response to Tom, which I think we should all remember going forward, is that she mentioned HRM does not have an architectural division, but rather turns to the Design Advisory Committee for recommendation on design. So if that's our job and our role, and we're not doing that anymore in package B, or at least like 70% less of the time, I think that does have implications for how we're governing the city and how we're moving forward with housing and with just how our community feels and who it's for. So totally agree, Sarah, and looking forward to the next conversation.
Well said. Okay. I think with that, we're done our correspondence.
Yes, Jesse, I think I will underline that quote and keep it close to my heart. Yeah.
Going to move on now. Item 8, information items brought forward. There are none. Item 9, reports and discussion. None. Item 10, added items. I think at this point I just want to talk about our committee appointments. Summarize that, because that's really the last thing that we have here. I'll just review. As you guys have all seen, you would have received a memo from Jill. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 of us have our committee appointments expiring on March 31st of 2022. And if any of us wish to continue on with the committee, we must reapply and go through the interview process once again. The deadline for applying for these positions is November 15th. That's Monday, right? if you want to apply, make sure you get your application in. I know from an acquaintance experience that if you're 1 day late, that's too late. There are no exceptions, so don't expect there to be an exception. It's not too hard to apply. You just, you guys can figure it out because you've done it before. We have 3 members, Christina, Sujana, and Nicholas. Their terms aren't expiring, so they don't need to have any action right now. I think we've talked about this one quite a bit, so everybody's probably gotten a pretty good idea what they're going to do. There's no need to discuss it anymore, but I'll open the floor. Does anybody have any comments?
Just a practical question. Jill, can you remember the date that you sent that letter out? So, because I'd forgotten all about it, so we can go back.
I have it.
Do you have it? What is the date, Ted?
October 12th.
October 12th. Okay, thank you.
So even if someone reapply, you're still on the committee through the end of March, which would be another, 4 meetings worth. Anybody else? Okay. Hearing none. Item 11 is the date of the next meeting, December 8th, 2021. I think we know what's going to be on the agenda there, talking about package B, and maybe there'll be further comment about our correspondence today. I'll have to talk with Jill and Jonathan about how we want to bring that in. And then we'll have, hopefully we'll have a tracker available. It's 1 month away.
Is there any information on why we do not have any more level 3 site plan approvals? Has development stopped in the city? Does anybody know, or?
Anybody want to guess?
There just aren't. I thought you were being punished for sending in that letter.
So. I thought there was a gap in applications because package B was just getting approved, and so now people are aligning their applications to meet those things. Maybe Sujana would know better because she's working directly with people who are doing these applications.
Sorry, what's the question again? I missed it.
Tom wanted to know why we're not getting any applications, and I thought it was because package B was just approved.
Probably. If applications were to be submitted for package B, the way the process is currently working, because the package B is completely not released to everyone yet, is we are having to submit applications as package A, and to just get the applications into the system. And then once package B is approved, the same projects would be reapplied into package B. This is the change in, yeah.
Does that answer it for you, Tom?
Well, it makes me look forward to doing 6 on our first meeting in January. 6 approvals, yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I was just wondering.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird process or time for now to submit any applications, just because of the litigations between package A and package B being approved and released.
That takes us to the end of our agenda. I want to thank everybody for attending today. I look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn? Tom.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay.
Seconder? No seconder?
It's 5:40. We don't need a second.
Thank you very much.
5:45. The meeting.
Thank you, Ted.
Adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good luck. Bye, everybody. See you in December.
Yep. See you all in December. Nice meeting you all again.